So my name is Mark Perez. I am the Specialist Housing Services Support Team Support Services Manager, which is as much of a mouthful as it sounds. So I head up a small team. There's 7 of us in total, and we work on the Shropshire Council side of the border. We've got 3 principal contracts that we run with Shropshire Council. The main one that we do is as part of the Sustain Consortium, and within that we provide tenancy support, housing support, and homelessness prevention support to members of the public across the county. The main aim of that is if someone is in some sort of housing crisis, to shift them away from that, to stop them becoming homeless in the first place, at which point, they do need a lot more resources. It's a lot more resource intensive. So it's a way of crisis management for a lot of that. The other contracts that we run, we've got a small hostel project that we run in the centre of Shrewsbury. That's going through some changes at the moment. So that's quite interesting, quite challenging. COVID essentially has meant that the use of that has had to be mothballed essentially. So we've given it on a short-term lease to Shropshire Council to use as a temporary accommodation for a family, because unfortunately families are still being made homeless. So that need is certainly out there. And the third and final project that we run is something, I have to say this very carefully, it's called the SHIP project. We work with the leaving care team at the council, and it's to provide accommodation and support for young care leavers. So at the age of 18, the care system changes. They're no longer children. So as they move into adulthood, a lot of them are still lacking some of the key skills that you need to live independently, to have a sustainable tenancy. So we provide what essentially is like a halfway house. So they're not in care, they're not 100% independent. They're at a place where, like any 18, 19-year-old, they're going to make mistakes, but they're going to learn from them. So they're not going to have the immediate consequences of being kicked out by a landlord or a housemate who can't get on. It's a place for them to learn and grow, and we've got some good successes with that. It's a very challenging part of the community, but very worthwhile. There's been a lot of changes. It's been very interesting over the last 10 years where the wider government has recognised that a lot of the shortfalls that there have been in the care provision. So funding has come in, extra duties of care have come in. So it's not you're 18, bye off you go. There is more of a safety net there. It's still not perfect, and we're a very small cog within that machine. But I'm really proud of the work that we do. I mean, the statistics kind of read for themselves. That in the past, a disproportionate number of care leavers have made up the people who are on the streets, who've made up the prison population. So it's starting to address that. It's going to be a long road, but we're really proud to be part of that process. When we were Shropshire Housing Alliance, that's when I joined, and that was in March 2014. So I've been around for 7 years. Obviously we're fully integrated to within the group now. I spent 2 years in the manager's post. Before that, I was actually a tenancy support worker. So doing what my team do gives you a great perspective of what they're up against, the challenges and the successes that they achieve. Before that, I actually worked for Shropshire Council, and I was a benefits visiting officer for a few years. So actually going out, doing verification work, doing some work with fraud, making sure that the right people were getting the right benefits. Those that weren't, getting that sorted, either that they were getting too much or if they were getting too little, helping them with things, especially around a lot of pension work, a lot of work around disability. So with what was disability living allowance, what's now PIP, personal independence payments, making sure that people are getting everything that they need. With the council, we were going from people 18, it was almost like a cradle to grave service. People who were 18 claiming for the first time needed some pointers, all the way up to people who needed help with things like attendance allowance or working out. We did some work around care packages, so helping people stay independent in their homes, working alongside occupational therapists. The full spectrum. The mediation specifically is a small part of what we do, and it's a service that myself and a couple of the other team members offer within the group and to a couple of other housing associations. So it's kind of separately to support. It's it's a very different service to the one that we provide with the support service, whereas the support service is often crisis management, get in there's a solution, you need to do X and Y, I can help you with that, you need to apply for that, bang, 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 get it out, get everything sorted and get out of there and move them away from that crisis situation. Mediation is very, very different. It's more being a guiding hand between parties, or if one party won't engage, then providing what we call conflict coaching or conflict resolution, really, to the other party. And that's a way of having them be a bit more mindful of their situation. A lot of the time when the parties come to us for mediation, it's very much, well, the neighbour's done this and that, get them to stop. So it's getting these people to actually realise that the neighbour might be doing that because of something that the original party has done. It's never black and white. It's always that lovely shade of grey down the middle. It's building up the parties, the tenants' empathy for the other person. So see how they perceive what you think is an innocent thing that you're doing, how they might actually perceive that. So it's very much guiding rather than leading, which a lot of the support work can be, because with the support work there's often the additional pressure of time. There's a notice to quit coming up in 10 days time, so we need to get things moving now. We can't be too thoughtful and okay, well, we'll get round to doing this. It really is almost like sort of immediate, like a triage. What's the most important thing that we have to do? What's the priority? Getting that done, and then when you've moved them out of that immediate crisis, then hopefully addressing some of the outliers. And that can be stuff, it's often budgeting work that they have a fixed income, they have their fixed outgoings, working out how to basically balance those scales, work out what the priority bills are, the priority debts, liaising with people that they owe money to, setting up payment plans if that's need be. And getting it so that they move from the crisis to being needy, to being just able to sustain their own tenancy. Essentially, the key marker. It's kind of who's it? Nanny McPhee. It's kind of when they actually want us there. That's when we can step away. Our role is really to do ourselves out of the job. It's about empowering them, and we do get a few clients who come round again. So with that, it's a question of signposting them to more appropriate services. But basically, if we can do ourselves out of a job, we've done our job well. As we move out of COVID into the brave new world, we've managed. We coped pretty well to start with, and on the whole, in terms of dealing with the clients, things have got better. They're not perfect because ultimately we are a face-to-face service. We need that human contact. A lot of it is about reading the person, reading the body language, being aware of their environment. So there have been some very specific challenges that COVID has presented to us. We've got over most of them, with things returning to whatever you want to call normal now. And over the last few months, we have been able to get out and start re-engaging with the clients. And the biggest issue probably has been maintaining that engagement throughout the pandemic period. With the existing clients, that rapport, that friendship was already established with a lot of them. With new clients coming on board, with the new referrals that we've had over the last 15 or so months, the challenge has been to build that relationship, and the team have been fantastic. We've had some great successes with clients. We've had some who only when you start visiting again and you sort of get that proper relationship, you then start to realise a lot of what the client hasn't let on. A lot of the clients have been in that kind of nodding dog routine because there hasn't been the pressure of evictions, or a lot of things have been put on hold for a lot of the benefit work. So things have just been just ticking along, and then as restrictions ease and things get back to normal, some of those real life pressures start to reimpose themselves. And that's when we find out that there's things that perhaps could have been done that if the client had told us, we could have managed sooner. But we're on top of it. I mean, we're lucky. We've got a really good team. They work exceptionally well one-to-one with the individuals. They build up those relationships, and that's essentially 99% of what our job is all about. There is some technical knowledge. They're really good, their benefits knowledge, like other organisations that they can signpost to. But the key element, the key thing that they all bring to the role is that they're all proper people, and that's so important across this service. It's a job that attracts that sort of personality, really. So, I'm always badgering the team for them to provide things like benefit gains and case studies. I mean, obviously we need them in the wider context for things like the social value reports, but also it humanises the service. We can say we've kept X amount of people in their home, or we've made so many £100,000 of benefit gains. But when you're actually talking about Mr. and Mrs. Jones and their 3 kids who aren't having to live in a B&B because we've actually managed to sort out their rent with universal credit, or we've managed to access some crisis funds to pay off some of their arrears. I think what the pandemic has brought home in the wider context is quite how vulnerable a lot of people are. I mean, there's always that thing bandied around that so much a percentage of the population is only like 1 or 2 paychecks away from being homeless. And the pandemic has really brought that home, where people have they've done the right thing. They're providing for their family and they're working, or they're getting the right benefits or anything like that. But there's something that essentially we couldn't have predicted, coronavirus, and people being made redundant because the business has gone bust overnight, or people being furloughed and suddenly they're on 80% of an income when they were already struggling. It's kind of highlighted what a knife edge quite a large proportion of people do live on, and we've certainly seen over the last 15 months a significant proportion of people that wouldn't probably consider themselves to be our regular customers. Literally overnight, their income has significantly dropped, or they're working from home. It's completely inappropriate, and that's led to domestic problems. And we've seen Mr. and Mrs. are still living together, but they've separated, so we've had to then sort out and access social housing for them. So you've got this wide range of new challenges that have been brought in on top of everything that we were dealing with already, and the team has certainly stepped up for that. It's a credit to the team because the circumstances have been challenging. Like you say, the case numbers have gone up. We've certainly seen a rise in the complexity of the cases, exacerbated by the whole corona situation. And the team, of course, they've been facing their own challenges. We're quite a sociable group. When we're in the office together, one of the things that you do is you hold the Chinese Parliament. I've got this client, and this is what's going on with them. What do we do? And you have that conflab over a cup of tea, and suddenly that's been whipped away. So the team has been dealing with working in a different way. They've absolutely stepped up to that, and I've no doubt, and I know from speaking to them, it has been a challenge. I certainly don't want them to think that they've been taken for granted with that. But we know there are going to be things that long term are going to be affecting us. So whether we go back to that 100% office environment, I can't see that happening. But actually, the blended approach, where there's been some fantastic advantages to working from home, and there have been some not so great things. The social isolation. So a lot of the team, not saying too lovey-dovey, but they have missed each other. Lacking some of the IT infrastructure, because although it's fantastic working in this digital environment, a lot of our clients, they're still very analog. It's still a very sort of pen and paper. When you're working with the Department for Work and Pensions and the council, there's still a lot of stuff that isn't online, or if it is, you're working with a client who's got a really old mobile phone and no data. So it's still challenging in that way. But with things like the COVID secure desks, be able to send off stuff for printing and scanning, that's been fantastic. But it's things that we've had to adapt to, because normally you just walk across the office, run it through the scanner and send it straight off to the Department for Work and Pensions. So we've had to adapt and change and be more organised in certain ways. But to look to the future, hopefully a blended approach, so people can work from home when it suits them, and they can come into the office again, have that social contacts, and it is a stressful job. People do need to unload, and it's not quite the same on Teams, is it? So yeah, hopefully before too long we'll have something that can sort of encompass that part of it as well, because it's so important. I mean, being part of the wider group gives us a great sense of stability, actually. And whereas before we were kind of just get on and do it, and we'd have with some things we'd have to find expertise or muddle through something. We've got legal and HR and IT support that we didn't have until we were part of the group. It's been a steep learning curve, and there's lots of things that we've had to learn to let go of a little bit, because normally we'd have done it ourselves, and to go now, oh no, we can ask people. We are part of this this wider pool of talent. But no, I mean the advantages for being in the group are just too many to mention. As we've expanded, it's allowed us to focus on what we need to focus on, rather than having to be sidetracked by checking Google for regulations. Much more focused, much more professional in what we do.